Hey everyone, good morning from chilly Colorado. It's a balmy 10 degrees today. I got some bad news. So for those of you who've been following me for a bit, you know that over the summer I recorded a video of the 5 technologies that I was most hopeful one for. And one of the technologies that I identified was something called small modular nuclear reactors.
Hey everyone, good morning from my porch. It's a balmy 60 degrees out today. Uh, I got some bad news. So, for those of you who've been following Peter Zeihan for a while now, know that this week he recorded a
Okay, just
video in which
stop,
he claimed
pause.
that
This video is literally driving me insane. What was supposed to be a quick 2-day long video has now taken me over 4 days to produce, all because I thought it'd be cute to do the whole thing standing on my porch to match the same style as Zeihan's videos, even footing and whatever. So I spent 3 days writing and recording this and, well, it came out terrible. See, unlike Zeihan or any other self-respecting YouTuber, I never actually got a good microphone for my phone. And so after hours of recording, I finally got all the takes done, sat down, and found the audio to be, well, just listen.
modular nuclear reactors have been abandoned and are not the future of energy. And, well, he is wrong about this.
There was no way in hell I was going to re-record everything, as it took so long just to get the lighting right, and I was constantly interrupted by passing traffic and loud noises, and the setup itself was, well, I mean, just look at it. This is stupid. Like, what even is this? Who does that? This is my cat. So I thought I could salvage the audio by turning it into an MP3 with FFmpeg, use Audacity to trim out the static, and then blast it with a ton of equalizers, which took half of Saturday. And I had really wanted to get this video out before the weekend to take advantage of the massive spike in views that happens on Friday and Saturdays, since apparently none of y'all have social lives. But then I was spending my entire Saturday trying to polish a turd, and, well, I guess the lesson here is that I need to invest in a better phone mic. Anyway, I almost gave up and just threw the whole thing away. But sunk cost fallacy logic and pure idiotic stubbornness has convinced me to try and salvage it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let this idiot finish whatever he was saying in this section, and then future me will take over with better audio. But because this is day 4 bleeding into 5 of working on this damn thing, I'm not going to put much effort into the visuals. Alright, play.
Modular nuclear reactors have been abandoned and are not the future of energy. And, well, he is wrong about this.
Well, over the course of the last couple of weeks, the companies that were involved in building the prototype have abandoned the project. They say the numbers no longer make sense. They could get enough sponsors. So if this technology is going to continue, it's going to continue at a later time with different players in an environment of even sharper limitations on technological development and capital availability, which means it's probably not going to happen this decade at all.
Now, in the video, he never directly states that they are dead or abandoned, but, well, look at the thumbnail.
Alright, good audio Ian taking over here. So, first off, what credentials do I have to claim Zeihan is wrong about this? Well, none. But I did discuss this with an expert, and I won't say who, but let's just say they're definitely not the Plasma Institute director at the University of Rurally Prosecco. Anyway, modular reactors, or small modular reactors, SMR for short. Although there are other sizes too, but SMR has kind of become a general term for Generation 4 nuclear reactor technology made into a standardized modular package. Now, for brevity's sake, I won't go into the details of exactly how this works, but just understand that the idea is that you can make a nuclear reactor small thanks to a new kind of fuel, which greatly simplifies a lot of the control and safety mechanisms involved in nuclear energy generation. And because of its relative simplicity and the fact it can be made small, a lot of people realized, hey, instead of making a giant reactor that powers an entire region, costs billions to make and decades to construct, we could theoretically mass produce a bunch of these according to standardized designs at a factory with quality control. And the fact that they can be made small means that they can be put in a box and trucked to any site. This is important to understand because it means they can be placed at every site where a coal power plant has been shut down and directly integrated into the existing power grid infrastructure. In other words, you don't need to build new buildings, rezone any areas, manufacture and ship new turbines and generators, or erect new power transmission infrastructure, power lines and transformer stations. It's all already there waiting to go. That's the point of these, which Zeihan seems to understand, at least at first.
The idea is you have a reactor that's small enough to fit on the back of a semi-trailer, and you can just plug it into any other power system. So if you've got a coal plant, for example, that you are looking to decommission, you can pull one of these in, or two of these based on the size, up to 10, and just plug them in and they're good to go.
Now, let's go over the two reasons why Zeihan says this tech has been abandoned and is not the future of energy. First, Zeihan claims that we are entering into a capitally constrained environment due to the ongoing demographic stagnation and eventual decline, and that because of this, modular reactor tech is on the chopping block of things first to go, as we tighten our belts, so to speak.
The issue we're facing is that we're entering into a period of extreme capital dearth and a shortage of people in their 20s and their 30s. Well, the people in their 20s and their 30s are the folks who get together and imagine the future and develop the technology, and a lot of cheap capital is required to bring it to mass manufacture. And without those two factors, the pace of technological change that we've been used to seeing these last 20, 25 years is going to slow considerably. And that's before you consider any sort of general dislocations because of demographic aging or droughts of consumption or breakdowns in globalization. So the pace is going to slow incredibly. And the question is which technologies are kind of already at the hump, where they're just right on the edge of mass manufacture and mass application. And one of the technologies that I identified was something called small modular nuclear reactors.
So, to steelman his argument, the logic is that the ongoing demographic collapse is continuously constraining capital. This means technologies that are on the horizon and require a lot of upfront capital to develop, but are not yet well established and proven, are going to be abandoned. What technologies are these? Well, we can look at all the techs on the horizon and look for signs of trouble. And modular reactors are one such industry in which Zeihan claims to see signs of smoke. But it is my contention that what may seem like smoke to Mr. Zeihan, spelling doom for an entire industry, is, upon closer inspection, simply a controlled burn. As one commenter on Zeihan's video put it, there are over 50 SMR concepts in play in the industry, and not all are made equal. What we are seeing is a consolidation within the industry as the less competitive companies and designs drop out of the race. A prime example of this is NuScale, whose announcement to abandon one of their startup reactor designs is what I think spurred Zeihan to make this video.
For the past 10 years, NuScale has worked with a Utah utility to build a first-of-its-kind small modular nuclear reactor power plant. This week, both companies announced an end to the partnership before the project was complete.
But the context as to why this design was abandoned seems to have been lost. NuScale is one of the first companies to enter into this race, and as such, their reactors are further ahead in development than most others because they started in 2012. But their reactor designs are also largely outdated because they were designed in 2012. This is why they have abandoned one of their designs. This is why it no longer made financial sense. This is a far cry from the entire industry being abandoned, and in direct contrast to this claim, it appears that the industry is actually becoming more embraced. The biggest barrier for nuclear development has always been political, but in 2019, the National Defense Authorization Act initiated Project Pele, in which Congress directed the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy to develop a plan to design, build, and test a microreactor at a Department of Defense installation site no later than December 2027. And in April of 2022, two final designs were decided on, and their respective companies, X Energy and BWXT, were awarded a few $1 billion each to deliver working reactors. Also, the University of Illinois and another company, USNC, have announced plans to collaborate and deploy a microreactor on the Urbana-Champaign campus, and Rolls-Royce's reactor seems to still be going strong. The list continues, but you get the point. At the end of the day, there will only be 2 to 3 best designs, so we should expect to see lots more designs abandoned. But this smoke is evidence of a healthy, functioning market, not a dying industry, so there's no need to sound the alarms. Next, Zeihan says that SMRs won't be deployed fast enough to replace all of our current legacy reactors because of the capital crunch, and so 20% of US grid energy provided by legacy reactors is going away. And this is another area in which Zeihan kind of contradicts himself. First, it is possible to keep extending the life of those plants, but more to the point, replacing these reactors isn't the purpose of SMRs. As noted earlier in the video, he seems to understand that the advantage these have to offer is that they can be plugged into existing coal or natural gas infrastructure and delivered to remote locations. This means they are generally intended for areas that don't receive enough sunlight or wind to justify solar panels or turbines. You know, places that still use coal. Here's a map showing solar potential. You need to understand we're talking about industrial scale energy production here. The red zones are the only places where solar intensity is sufficiently high for panels to make economic sense without massive subsidies. This means you get more value from your panels than they cost to produce and install, while also reducing your carbon footprint. Profit. The orange areas are the locations where it makes environmental sense. You basically break even on energy generation, but it reduces your carbon footprint. Solar in the green zones is a no-go, as it actually increases your carbon footprint because you'll never generate enough power to pay off the sunk carbon costs of installation. Now, these black dots on the map are cities with at least 1 million people. These are the things that need power. See how few of them are in the red? And actually, a majority of them are in the green. Unfortunately, transmitting power more than 500 miles results in a load loss of about 10%, making the cost too high. So we can't just fill the red zones with solar panels and wire all that energy back to the East Coast. So what about other non-nuclear green energy options? Well, hydro is great, but entirely dependent on geography, and most sources of hydro that can be utilized have been utilized. So damn. And then geothermal is great, but like solar, it's largely in the red. Last but not least, we have wind. Like solar, wind power faces intermittency problems and is geographically determined, but unlike solar, wind has less siting restrictions and can even be installed above crops. Also, the wind is more reliable as it blows at night, and industry norm 80 meter plus turbines tap into higher wind currents that are not only stronger but also more reliable. This increase in reliability makes wind about 3 times as cost effective as solar. And just like our solar map, here is a wind map. Red is profitable, orange is environmental, and hey, nice, that covers a lot more ground. And more importantly, that covers a lot more of those all-important black dot. Now, let's combine the maps. These are the places where wind and solar make good economic sense in an ideal system. Blue for wind, green for solar, and dark green for both. Oh, but we can't forget about our 500-mile transmission limit, or our siting limitations. No solar on valuable agricultural land, no wind on mountains. No transit through the Himalayas and failed states, so let's just update this and ouch. The light green areas, which is pretty much everywhere, is market potential for either CO2 emitting hydrocarbon-based energy generation or clean, emission-free nuclear energy. Modular reactors are intended to replace the hydrocarbon generators at the power plants they were already established on, near the black dots in the light green areas. Considering this is the majority of places, and the majority of those places are generally not in favor of continued hydrocarbon-based generation, and the best designs still have sufficient financial and political backing, I would say modular reactors have a future. Finally, I hope that this would have been obvious, but I have to note that these are not meant to replace the legacy nuclear plants themselves.
Which means the 20% of the electrical grid that is supplied by nuclear right now is going to fade away, because with a couple of exceptions, all of those reactors are older than I am, and I turn 50 very, very soon. So not only do we need to massively increase the amount of power generation we have to double the size of the industrial plant as the Chinese break apart, and we need even more power in order to do the green transition and maybe move to a more electric future, we also have to replace 20% of our total energy supply, which is at the moment all base load, which is something that wind and solar can't come up with or can't work with because they're too intermittent.
It's like saying the purpose of Teslas is to replace city buses. The purpose of Teslas is to replace CO2 emitting gas-powered cars, not city buses. And if the city wants to replace their aging bus fleet with new electric buses, that will be made possible because of the advent of scaled-up lithium-ion battery tech, which would be in place because of the popular demand for Teslas, but they are not meant to replace Teslas. Same with modular reactors. Perhaps eventually they might replace legacy reactors once their manufacturing base has been scaled up, but that's a secondary application. Bad reactor designs being abandoned is a good thing. It means the industry is progressing. Even in a capitally constrained environment, SMRs show great promise, not as the future of energy, but as a key part of it. The future of energy is a composite. If you want to see the future of energy, then look again at this map. Solar in the green, wind in the blue, both in dark green, and nuclear reactors everywhere else. Unless, of course, we just keep burning coal.
And you know what the craziest part about this whole video is? This map was made by Peter Zeihan.
All right, bye.